Well, good morning. I think we're live. We are. I'm just checking over here to make sure we're coming on live. G'day everyone, popping in for our usual chat. Now, it's not the normal time because we usually do tomorrow, but I'm actually going on a bit of a break for a couple of days. We're going up to Echuca. It's a holiday here in Melbourne tomorrow due to our grand final. It's one of our biggest sporting days. Our football teams are playing in the grand final on Saturday, so we have a holiday on Friday. So I thought rather than miss another week, because I missed last week due to a funeral, so I thought rather than miss another week, I'd do a bit earlier this week, so I've done it a day earlier. So we're going to give a little bit of a time for just a catch-up, make sure everyone knows we're live. But let me pop over to the live chat and we can just see who's popping in. So say hi as you're popping in, guys. Let me just put on the timer. There we go. So we got TJ is here. Oreo is saying good night. He must have gone to bed. I'm having tea this morning because it's so early. It's only 8:30 in the morning. I usually have a cup of tea and then I have coffee. So I've got a cup of tea here that I'm going to keep filling up. So Oreo said good night, everyone. I think he's going to bed. I think David's anxiously waiting. MJ says cheers. Reuven says morning, David. SRM Media says hi, everyone. Barry Street saying good morning. Studio 96 Vienna is saying hello. Dave Ascendo is saying morning. Jeff is saying I'm not a fan of the cooling fan. Oh yeah, you're talking about the thing. Well, whether that's true, but we'll talk about that later. Victor says, hello, David from Livingston, New Jersey. Steve says, good morning from Kent, Wedding, London. Dane says, all we know that you are going to be unhappy with Sony. Just don't be surprised if Sony doesn't deliver. Don't say that, Dane. Why are you saying that? They may deliver. Glassfilm said, start. Michelle said, hello, David and everyone. Hi, Michelle. Where were we? Raymond says, great to see you, Dave. Mark says, hi there. Glassfilm says, hurry up. What does that mean? Jeff Burke says, I would prefer 4K 60 without the cooling fan. We'll talk about that as one of the stories today. Harry says, Arvo is my time here. Hero says, yeah, you got the notification. I would really appreciate it too, guys, if you can give me a thumbs up, because it does let people know I'm online. Glassfilm, that one. Oh no, Oreo's still here. G'day, Oreo. Light out, good morning, everyone. Jeff said it's coffee time. Yeah, I'm having a cup of tea this morning just for a difference. You know what? It's starting to warm up. I think today's sort of around 20-ish. Tomorrow's mid-20s where I'm going. So it won't be long and I'll be back with the other coffee with you guys. Altrix also here. LT Deadeye saying hello from New Orleans. My daughter is actually up in Florida at the moment. They're at Disneyland, I think, today. They are actually at... where are they? They're at... I'll tell you. I'm just trying to look where it is. I don't know. But they're in one of the parks up there at the moment. Epcot Center. Oh, no, that's tomorrow they're going to the Epcot Center. Today they're just at one of the Disneyland parks there. So she's in Florida. They're there for 3 weeks doing different things. So she's having an absolute ball. She said it's nice and hot there. Oops. Let me just come back here. Altrix, yeah, we're saying hello after midnight here. Yeah, it's 8:30 a.m. in the morning here. Get to the point. What's that glass film? Get to the point of what? We always have this discussion, mate. Glass film, if you don't want to watch, nick off. That's all I can say. You don't have to stay if that's what you don't want to watch. Raymond said 3 thumbs up. Whoop, whoop. James said hi all. Eli says hey. Torben is saying I'm editing a voiceover. I just read and I'm trying to listen along here. Not too easy. That's funny, Torben. Yana says hello from Athens. Ronnie says, hey, Belgium is still awake. Boy, you guys are up nice and late. Money Pizzle said, A7S when? Well, who knows? But we're going to talk about that shortly. I've only got really 2 stories, well, 3 sort of stories to talk about this morning. It's not that much around in the rumours thing. A thumbs down doesn't help others. Kerry laughed yesterday because I put up the video about the A9 firmware update, and I think it got 4 or 5 thumbs down. We're just laughing our heads off thinking the haters are an absolute crack up. They really are. It just makes me laugh. Every time I put a video up, I immediately get a thumbs down. I don't know why. They must follow me because they see the video as soon as it goes up, and then they'll just give a thumbs down. So they obviously are jealous or something. I don't know what it is. They must be jealous of me or something. But why watch someone if you don't like him? Oh my God, it cracks me up. It really does. Zoe at moment says, hey David. Akbas also gave a thumbs up. Oops. Roberto says, hey David, thumbs up. Thanks, mate. Glass Film said, please, David, get to the point, David. We want to hear about the A7S news, please. And I just, well, there isn't really much news, Glass Film. We're just talking about the rumours, but I always have this bit, you've just got to wait. We always have this enjoyable bit where we talk to each other. Disney World, yeah, it probably is Disney World they're at. I'm going to Disney on the 30th. Well, I'm going to go to Disneyland when I come over to the US in Feb. Can't wait, but that's the LA ones though, not over in Florida. So can't wait to meet all you guys in the US. Hopefully you'll all be able to meet me in LA and also in Vegas and San Francisco. MJ says chill pill. I love it. Glass Film's guessing what the A7S is going to have. Oreo said there's a new Tamron lenses to talk about. Yeah, I didn't talk about that, did I? I might, if I get time to talk about that. I'm only going to be on for about an hour today. Bill Brown says, how much for the A7S III? Well, it's hard to say. Let's discuss that when we come back to the A7S. We'll come up there and talk about that. It's probably going to be around the same price as the A7R4. That's what my guess is. Remember, I don't think it's going to be up in the A9 levels, the A9 II. So I think it will be about the same price as an A7R4. So you'll have the A7S III. Would be the video-centric camera, and the A7R4 is the stills-centric camera. So they'll be the sort of top of that range, and then you'll have the A9, which will be their marquee product. Yeah, I did forget about the Tamron lenses, though. It's interesting. I'll talk more about the Tamron lenses when they are fully announced, Oreo, because I will get versions of those to test, obviously, before they're announced. So I will have reviews up of the new Tamron lenses as soon as they're out. Particularly interested in the zoom lens, the long one, which, you know, whether it's the 70 to 180. Can't wait to try those out. And I was thinking about the 2.8 Tamron lenses as well. A lot of people are sort of going, oh my God, 2.8. But I think, you know what, depending on how you're shooting, they'll be great lenses to put on gimbals. They really will. So it might be good for that. I mean, for still shooting, the 2.8 is probably a little bit of a disappointment. But if you're on the film side, particularly if you want to put them on a gimbal, you know, and it's a 20mm 2.8, that would be a fantastic lens. Let me just fill up my tea. Answer that, I reckon the A7S III will be about the same price as the A7R4. How cold does it get where you are? James, look, winter time, it gets to around, our average is probably 15, 16 degrees Celsius. So that's what, around high 60s, I think, in Fahrenheit is the coldest we get here. It doesn't snow, so we don't get really cold weather. Our summers are very hot though, yeah, we don't get very cold weather, no. It's not compared to European or parts of the US. What else have we got? Raymond said, so I've just received my 135 GM 2.4 to add to my 24 GM. Oh, I love those two lenses. Wow. That's the perfect combination. The 35 and the 24 are brilliant. Looks like I won't have a camera to use with them until 2020. Oh, no, that's terrible, Raymond. Talk about having sleeping giants waiting to be awake, and that's, oh my, boy. Yana says, Tamron Primes 2.8, what's the reason for that? Well, we don't know yet. I mean, they haven't been announced yet. I mean, there's only rumours going around. I think they're doing that due to size. They want to keep everything really small. So that's the only thing I can think of why they want to keep them at 2.8. Now, I had the 35 2.8, and I love that lens. I ended up selling it because I got the 24 1.4, and I love that lens so much that I just wasn't using it. But I did really like using it, particularly for travel and if I'm just doing some street work and stuff like that. So having a 2.8 lens on full frame is not that bad, guys. It's actually not that bad. It's quite good. If you want something really light, great for travel, very, very small, great for gimbal work, 2.8 lenses can be really good. So don't discount them out yet. Remember, you don't always have to shoot wide open all the time, and that's one of the other things about it as well. They're probably not something that I would buy though, those lenses. I may get the 70 to 180 though. MJ said, great street primes. Yep, they are. G'day Gerald, good to see you on here. Raymond said, oop, thanks for that correction. MJ said, high 60s, laugh out loud. I live in Michigan. It must get cold there then, does it? Yeah, we don't get cold here, but it's all relative. You feel cold. It's quite funny. I think today, what's it now? It's the mornings are cold though, like it's 9 degrees Celsius now. We're going to get to 20 odd today, I think. But, you know, it's all relative. MJ says that's our summer. I love it. Stephen says 135 1.4 is the best quality. Oh, I love the 135 f1.8 Sony lens is amazing. If you can't afford that, I also recommend the Sigma as well. The Sigma is really good too. But the Sony, obviously, I think steps above that due to the fact it has those silent motors. You've got the declicked aperture ring on there, and also your focus buttons that you can program as well. It's just, I love that lens. Ever since the funny thing is, ever since I've got that lens, I haven't used my 70 to 200. I haven't even taken it out of my bag since I've had that lens, so it's quite funny. Joseph said, Oreo says, I love small 2.8 lenses. Yep, I did too, Oreo. Like I said, I love that small 2.8 35 that I had. Joseph said, I finally pulled the trigger on the a7R4. You're going to love that camera, Joseph. And now the S is being released. Well, when they say being released, we don't know yet. It's still going to be next year before we get that camera though, Joseph. There's still only rumours at this stage. The R4 is going to be great, and if I desire the extra video horsepower in the future, I'll trade in. You can't go wrong with the R4. You've got probably the best crop camera that's available. And that's one side of that camera that's not mentioned that much, but you have got Sony's best crop camera inside that. So it's great. You've got an amazing full frame camera. You've got your 60 megapixels. It's fairly good in video. And it's got great cropping ability as well. So it's a great all-round camera. G'day Jim, good to see you in here. What do you say? Greetings from Minnesota, USA. I'm here for David's latest Christmas gift unboxing. I haven't got anything to unbox. Oh, I did. I got two things yesterday. I got this amazing little bag and also a fantastic tripod. Stay there. I'm going to go and get them. I'll show you. Oh, no, I won't. Wait till you see the review. Yeah, because I've got stuff in there. I'm packing it. Yeah, I've got two of them. So I'm going to take it away to Echuca over the weekend and I'll do a review. They're great. The little bag is beautiful. It's a really good small one for mirrorless. If you're taking one camera and stuff like that. And the tripod is really nice. It's similar to my Mi Photo, only it's another brand, but stay tuned for that. All right, so let's get going, guys. We'll start the show, so bear with me for a second. Good morning, everyone. Popping in. Well, it's not our usual show today. I've had to do today because we're going away tomorrow. It's a holiday here in Melbourne. Tomorrow we have our grand final on Saturday, and we had to. I thought we'd go away for a couple of days, so I'm going to go up to Echuca, which is up north, with a beautiful river and massive gum trees and all this sort of stuff up there, and birds and everything. So we're going to go up there for a couple of days. So I can't do tomorrow. Now, I missed last Friday as well due to the fact I had my son's mate's funeral. So we couldn't do last Friday's either. So I didn't want to miss this week's Rumours and Roundup. So I decided to do it today. So I obviously won't be able to do tomorrow. It doesn't mean I won't come on live. I might. If there's time I can do something up there, I might just pop on for a few minutes and have a chat. I'm going to be reviewing a couple of things. I've got an amazing bag. I've also got this thing that I want to talk about too, which, let me just bring this up. It's one of the holders that goes onto the front of the camera that holds the ND that flips down. So I want to talk about that as well. And I've got a tripod that I'm going to discuss also. And this amazing little bag that's great for mirrorless because it will fit one camera in and a couple of lenses and things like that. So they've just been sent to me. So I'm going to review those while I'm up there. So I won't be on live tomorrow. Well, not for this show anyway, but I might pop on live anyway and have a quick chat if I get the time. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow. So I thought rather than miss another week, I'd come on this week and do the usual Sony Alpha rumours and news. Not that there's heaps of rumours and news around, but I thought I'd talk about a couple of things today. Obviously the A9 firmware update. I'm going to talk about the a9ii as well. I thought we'd discuss that. And also the Sony a7S III rumours that are around as well. So we can discuss that too. So we can go through those all together. So let me put down on here, I'm going to start with a firmware update. I'll just put the time, 15:50. And let me cross over to here. So obviously the other day Sony released a new firmware update. Now they've added real-time IAF for animals, and I did do a video on this. In fact, if you look on the Sony Alpha Rumours site, it's my video that's down the bottom there that was released. So it does add real-time tracking. It also adds interval shooting functionality, so we've got the interval shooting back now for your time lapses, and we've also got the compatibility for this Bluetooth commander as well. But also, Oreo did mention, and I never picked that up when I went through it, that you've now got the 1:1 cropping inside there as well, so that you can crop square, which is great if you want to do things like shooting for Instagram and things like that. And I missed that, and Oreo mentioned that that was there now, so that's fantastic as well. Really good. But the main thing is the change. I think the main thing, anyway, is the changing of the color for your focus, which is brilliant, because before it used to be grey. When you went to something like flexible spot and you used to move the your focus point around, it was in grey and you couldn't see it, and it used to bug me like crazy because you could never see it. So they've now given you the ability to change that, and you can use white or red. And the second you change it, you just realise how much of a great feature that is. Because and I did show it in the video, I actually showed it in the video that I've posted, the difference between the grey, the white and the red. The white's quite good as well. The white actually has a little black line around it as well, so it's very, very contrasty. So depending on what colours are in your scene, sometimes you might use the white, or you may use the red. I mean, I don't think you'd use the grey anymore because it just doesn't show out really in anything. But those two colours are amazing, and it works very, very well. And I'm so happy about that. I'm just hoping that that comes out in the a7 III and the a7R3. Whether they'll do that or not, I don't know. I mean, there should really be no reason why they can't do that. And I'm hoping that for the people that have those cameras, I mean, I have the a7 III, so I'm hoping for the people that do have those cameras that they also get that. It might be that now that just comes up in a firmware update. I wouldn't hold your breath though, but I'm just hoping that that is available to people, because the second you do see it and you use it, you realise, boy, does that make such a massive difference, particularly when you're when you're using flexible spot and moving around. I mean, if you're using the A9 and you're using the touch screen, it's not so much of a big deal. Let me just see if I can show this. I've just got to change the focus. Because on the actual A9, when you use the, I can't show you because it won't show up, but when you use the focus on the touchscreen at the back, it actually is orange. So I can see the focus point when I'm moving around. That's not grey, so that's fine. It's just if you go into things like when you're using something like flexible spot or something like that, that focus point just disappears because it's grey in the other cameras like the a7 III. So now having the ability to make that turn red or white is brilliant. The other thing they've said too is they've said that, you know, performance improvements or whatever, I can't remember how they say it, but they've obviously probably fixed a few bugs and things like that as well. And they always put this funny thing down. I can't remember what it says, but the other thing too, which I love, is it's the My Menu has changed. So you can now set it to when you turn on your camera that the My Menu shows up straight away. And that's great because people always talk about the ergonomics of the Sony cameras as being really bad. And I don't believe that. I actually quite like it, but I'm used to it. So I suppose that's why. But once you've set your camera up, there's so many custom buttons and things like that, that I very rarely need to go into the menus. The only time really that I ever go in is to go into your My Menu. And having that ability to go into that My Menu, let me just see if that will focus. Having that ability to go up to that My Menu immediately, because that has everything that I've got in there that you know that I need. It's got file formats, it's got touch operation, it's got whether I want to change from RAW to JPEG, things like that. It's got APS-C Super 35mm mode, things like that, exposure modes in there, file format. Formatting my camera, they're all inside my menu. So everything that I use continuously is inside that My Menu thing. So I never really go into the menus at all. Really, the only place I go into is that My Menu. And everything else is set on the custom dials. You know, like I've got ISO, I've got white balance, I've got everything set on all of these custom settings as well. And remember, particularly on the A9, you've also got extra controls here with your focusing, and also your shooting modes are on there as well. So that's a big difference as well. So I never really have to go into the menus as such. So once you set your camera up, having that My Menu, and unfortunately I don't think you have that on the a7 III, the same as the A9, but having that function is brilliant. I never have to go into the menus at all. So having it where I can just immediately, when I press that menu button, it goes straight to that, really makes a big difference, because previously it used to go to the last place you were at. And that can be problematic if you want to get to something very, very quick. So the My Menu feature is really good, and I turn that on straight away so it goes straight to My Menu. Because like I said, I very rarely have to go into the other menus, and I think that's a great feature. The eye detection seems to work really great now. I've checked on Ziggy, my dog, and it seems to work really well. The tracking ability is really good, actually. It's unbelievably fast, as you expect the A9 to be. It was tracking him as he was running around the garden and everything like that, and I was having no issues at all. Nice and easy to switch. You can put that IAF tracking into your My Menu. You can also stick in changing the color of your menu button into the My Menu as well. I haven't done that, but I'm pretty sure that you can stick that in there too. So it's great. So, you know, we've got some really amazing features in there that I'm just glad. It seems to me like it's almost like we've got the A9 Mark II, 1.5 now. With the updates that we've got from that camera now, we really have been blessed, really, in what Sony have given us, what they've added in the coming days. It's been amazing. When you think, when I first bought the A9, there was no real-time tracking. Now we've been given real-time tracking. We've now been given the intervalometer back. We've been given the IAF, animal IAF in there, and also we've now been given the My Menu feature that's in there, and also the ability to change your focus menus. We've had some amazing updates. So let me just check if anyone's asking any questions about that before we move on to the A9 II. G'day, Fatamik is in here. I just received my a7R4 upgrading from the a7 III, and I'm rather disappointed for the noise above 800 to 1000 ISO. Remember, Roberto, there will be a slight difference, but what you've got to understand too is that if you downsample to the same size that your previous camera was, the noise would be exactly the same. So I wouldn't worry about the noise that much. You remember, you're dealing with a 60 megapixel camera here. It's impossible if you think of the sensor size or the the actual photons or whatever you want to call it on the sensor. They have to be more compressed and more put together. So you are always going to get slightly more noise the more megapixels you get on these cameras. But if you downsample it, it would be the same as what you had previously. So don't be disappointed in that, because if you downsample the A7R4 file size down to the A7R3 file size, they'd be exactly the same. The noise would be exactly the same. And if you downsampled it down to the 24, it would be around about the same as a A7 III anyway. So disregard the noise. You shouldn't be looking at it like that, because you're looking at it from a high megapixel standpoint. If you did downsample it, it would be fantastic. And look at it from the benefit of the other things that you've got, Roberto, like, you've got the real-time tracking in there, you've got that extra megapixels, and if you use it in crop mode, you've got the best crop camera that's available. So look at it from that aspect. Gerald said, still in St. Martin, so he's still on his holiday. 88 degrees Fahrenheit here today. 135 GM is awesome, and the 24 GM. Like David, I haven't used my 70-200 2.8 since getting it. I'm exactly the same, Gerald. I have not got my 70-200 out since I bought the 135. I love that lens that much that I've just not got it out. Raymond said, now if they ever redesign the 85 with linear motors, that will happen. Look, I'm pretty certain eventually the 85 will be redesigned. The 1.4 now, maybe a 1.2 lens. I would love Sony dearly to bring out an 85 1.2. And remember, they still talk about that every so often. They still talk about bringing out a very fast lens. I've got tea burps. Let me have another drink. They still keep talking about bringing one of those out. Now, the perfect one that they could do would be the 85. We also will see, I suppose, a 100 millimeter they're talking about, or a 105. I think it was the 100, wasn't it? 1.4 as well. That will come out. We know that because that's been patented. But an 85, I think, will be redone. So I'm pretty sure that will be redone. Now, remember, all companies, Canon have done it, Nikon have done it. They will do versions 2 of their lenses. I mean, some of the Nikon lenses and Canon lenses are version 3, like the 70-200. You'll probably find that the 70-200 will be updated with those linear motors as well. The 2470 will be updated as well. It's only a matter of time before they update those lenses to the latest focusing methods and stuff like that. Those lenses have been around for a little while now, so they will do version 2 of them. The 85 particularly is reasonably slow. If you compare it to the 85 1.8, the 85 1.8 is way faster than what the 85 1.4 is. So the 85 1.4 could definitely do with an update. If they put the same linear motors that's in the 135, it would be fantastic. In fact, that would tempt me to buy it. But even still, I have used my Batis. I do use that in weddings because there's certain shots. If I'm in a tighter space, I can't use the 135. That's one thing you've got to understand about the 135. You need a lot of room really to use it, particularly if you're going to go full body. So I still do use my 85. So if Sony brought out a really good 85, particularly if it was a 1.2, it would tempt me to buy it, that's for sure. Photomix says, that's not to be expected. It's 81 megapixel packed in a full frame sensor, or 61. Yeah, it is expected. You will get more noise. Dane says it would be hilarious if the A7000 came out instead of this camera we are currently talking about. Jim Penn says, laugh out loud, 2 things for Christmas. Stephen said, Roberto, you should have done your homework on what you're buying then. Yeah, but he probably, like I said, Roberto, his camera, there's nothing wrong with it. If you downsample that to the same size as his previous camera, it would be exactly the same. So that's what you've got to understand when you're dealing with these higher megapixel cameras. TW says, I'm waiting for my A6 to use it with my 24 GM. Lovely. For street photography, it should be the perfect 135 2.1. It will be. It'll be a fantastic combination. I use my 24 on my A6 400 often, and I love it. It's a fantastic combo. Jeff said, good idea to escape Melbourne during the grand final weekend too. Many oppos. I love it. I will be watching the grand final though. That's for sure. We knew you meant 61. Hi from USA on holiday from Australia. Mark said that lens the lens that interests me is the Sigma 35 1.2 and what they have done for rear mount filters. Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? I agree. Let me just quit these. Yeah, I mean, look, the Sigma make great lenses. Let's face it. I mean, the days now where third-party lenses were sort of frowned upon have gone. I mean, if you look at it, Sigma make amazing lenses, Samyang make amazing lenses, Tamron make amazing lenses. So we are really blessed now, and any of those lenses is fantastic. I can tell you quality-wise, the Sigma 135 and the Sony 135, I really could not tell them apart. They were that close that I could have bought either one. It's the other things inside the Sony lenses that are so much better, like the focusing is so much better in the Sony. I mean, the Sigma was great, it was good, but the Sony is in another league. So that's one aspect of that. It's also, like I said, the declicked aperture ring is just so good. The lightweight, it is lighter than what the Sigma is. And having the focus buttons as well. So there's certain things that you pay for with the Sony for those features. Quality-wise, honestly, when I did it, I could not tell the difference between the two of them. If you probably do pixel peeping and get right in, you might be able to tell a fraction of difference. But I really could not tell the difference between the Sigma 135 and the Sony 135. And in fact, probably the sharpest of any of them that I tried was the 105 Sigma. That was ridiculously sharp. But it's a massive honking lens. But, you know, they're unreal. Like the Tamron lens, the 17 to 28 is brilliantly sharp. The 28 to 75 is brilliantly sharp. I love that lens. That stays on one of my cameras for a whole wedding now. It's that good. You know, I mean, we're blessed. And yeah, the 35 1.2 is a brilliant lens, Mark. Hero says they pack the full frame sensor with 61 so they will have noise. Yeah. But the noise is not bad though. Hero, that's the thing that from what I've seen, and I used it because I went to a shop and they gave me one for a while, and I took it around Melbourne. But the noise is not what I'd say is being bad. I mean, it's really acceptable. But like I said, if you did downsample that to the other megapixel like 24 or your old A7R3 file size, it would be exactly the same. PhotoMX says, it's interesting how much people are surprised by the increased noise. I would be more surprised by less noise or equal to performance to the 42 megapixel sensor. More noise makes perfect sense. It does, it's physics. There's no way of getting out of that. You can only fit so much in those sensors. And, you know, like I said, the more compact they are, the more noise you'll get. That's why the A7S line had a 12 megapixel sensor camera, due to the fact that there would be less noise. Roberto says, I own the A7 III as well and I'm using it in low light. Anyway, being a new 61 megapixel sensor, I was expecting better low light performance. Hero says, that's why I'm glad I got what I got for my A7 III when I dropped that. PhotoMix says, there was a big discussion on the A7 forum on Facebook about the grey focus point. Glad they updated that because it was a pain to deal with. Yeah, it was, PhotoMix. I hated it. It was because I use flexible spot a lot. Particularly if I want to control where the focus goes, I'll immediately go to flexible spot. And not being able to see that was a pain because you really couldn't see it. The second you started to move it, you lost where that focus point was. And that was a real issue with that focus point color, whereas the new ones, the red and the white, really stand out, and you don't realize how good it is now until you see it actually happen. And now that you use that, boy, you know, it doesn't make a difference. I'm just hoping they bring that to everyone else. What else have we got? I'm just laughing at Jimmy said, "Oh, please give David a thumbs up. It energizes him for giving an unboxing goodies." I love it. Mark Walters said, "The new specs of the A7S III must be good. I'm waiting too long. Otherwise, a lot of people would switch." I'm going to talk about the A7S. Oh, no, after the a9 II in a minute. Oreo says, "I have assigned switch focus area to the joystick, and then in the focus area limit, I have enabled only 2 options, wide and tracking, flexible spot S, and 2 when I'm in wide mode." Oreo, have you found the tracking is any better, or you haven't tested it yet? I know Oreo was having problems with the face tracking and stuff like that with the A9. It's interesting because I've never had a problem, but Oreo was having issues. Oreo also said, "The camera does not pick the subject I want. I just press the joystick and the camera immediately switched to the tracking more flexible spot." Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Gerald said, "I have the A7R4 and the noise is no problem, gone in post. The resolution and detail are a marked upgrade. Don't make too much about the noise, guys. The camera rocks." Yeah. And that's the thing, remember, that there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can either get more detail and then you have to have a little bit more noise, but like Gerald says, you can get rid of that in post. You can always get rid of noise, but you can't add detail. And that's something you've got to think about, Roberto, when you're looking at that camera, that you can't add detail, but you can always eliminate noise in post. And that's something that you do have to think about. Dane said, "Why is there a lot of firmware releases for the A9? That's an older camera. It's so disappointing that they don't upgrade the firmware for the older crop Alpha series." Well, Dane, I suppose Sony are looking after people. There's 2 ways of looking at this, that perhaps Sony are thinking, we want to look after the people that bought the ultimate camera that Sony have released. Remember, I paid $7,000 Australian for this camera. When this was released, it was 7,000 Australian dollars. That is an awful lot of money. I would expect, no disrespect to you, but I would expect Sony to look after customers that spend that sort of money more than what they would if you'd spent, say, $2,000. I know that might sound terrible, but from a business perspective, I would expect them to do that. So I think probably what they're doing is they're looking after the customers that spent that much money. Also, it may make those customers feel confident in going out and buying the new A9 too. Remember, the A9 is a niche market. It may be not now because it's come down a lot in price, but when this first came out, it was a niche market. I didn't know many people that went out and bought the A9 because it was too expensive. I think, what was it, 5,000 US on announcement? Well, it's a very expensive camera. I mean, it's reasonably priced because if you compare it to what Nikon, the D5, or the Canon, the 1DX Mark III or whatever it is, they were a lot more expensive. But for Sony, this is their flagship camera, so you would expect them to look after the people that bought that camera. So I would not expect Sony to have to do the same thing for the other cameras. Unfortunately, I can understand it from a business perspective. I hope that doesn't sound nasty, but I would expect them to look after someone that had spent $7,000, definitely. I mean, I still think they should add that focus point, if it's possible, into the other cameras, but I would expect them to upgrade something more like an A9. Dama says, "David, do you lose your settings?" No, you don't lose the settings when you upgrade to this new firmware. You did when I went to the original 6, if I remember, but you don't lose it now going up to the new version, no. But you might if you haven't upgraded at all. Like if you're still on version 5, the version before that, you may. Three Tree says, "Am I the only one that thinks the photos from the A7R2 are better than the A7R3? I have both." Interesting. You don't lose your settings yet, thanks. Oops. let me just check down here, see if there's anything that I see. Jim said A7R3 and the A7 III are here. Both are amazing in my experience. I love the ability to super crop in the R3. Yep. If you want to do cropping modes, you really need the R3. The A7 III just doesn't give you really enough. But when I say that, it does give you enough resolution. I used to use the D3S, and that was 12 megapixels, and I used to shoot weddings with that. But obviously, the more megapixels your camera have, the better the APS-C mode will be. That's why the A7R4 is so good. Andre says, if the a9 II is going to be Sony's flagship, they should release it with the best photo and video specs. I would pay $6,000 for the mega camera with the A7S III video specs and the A9 speeds. I know some people still don't think that, but I've used nearly all the cameras. I used to own an A7S II as well. I still fully believe, from my testing, that the A9 is still the best video camera that Sony have ever released. And I'm talking about full frame camera. And the reason I say that is because there's no picture quality loss at all when you're shooting in full frame. All the others, to get the best quality, you're meant to use Super 35. The A9 is the only one you don't have to do that. There's no difference in the Super 35 and the full frame crop mode when you're dealing with video on the A9. It's just that they've left the picture profiles out. Now, that is a deliberate ploy by Sony to make sure that you go and buy one of the other cameras if you want to do video. Because if you need picture profiles, you can't use the A9. And they've done that deliberately, I'm sure of it. That they've used like I said, Casey's cripple hammer and not put those picture profiles in. Now, that's a deliberate ploy. You cannot tell me that they couldn't add the picture profiles into the A9. So that's a deliberate ploy. So I would not be surprised if the new A9 II doesn't have picture profiles again. Because if they make that the ultimate video type camera, who is going to go and buy the A7S? And this is the thing that Sony are a bit at the moment. They're making a stills camera, which is the A7R4. They'll release a Sony A7S III, which will be the video camera. They'll release the A9 II, which is going to be the stills camera, the sporting camera. That's their flagship camera. But it will probably have good video, but I guarantee it probably won't have amazing video. How are we going for time? Because I've got to be out of here by 10. Mark says, remember, the new frame color also makes it easier to see what mode you are when the frame box changes. Yes, exactly. That's a good point, Mark, too. You can see that. Oops. Where were we? I hate the way it jumps like that. Ooh, where were we? It was down here somewhere. I hate it because it always jumps around. Here we were. Big facts, David. You get what you pay for, and it costs to be the boss. It does. We're talking about that A9 update. Like I said, you would expect Sony to look after people that have purchased the A9, that's for sure. You've got to remember too, you have got decent upgrades on the A7 III though, and the A7R III. You did get the animal IAF, you did get the intervalometer added in as well. Sony didn't need to do that, so you've got to understand from one point of view, they have given a decent upgrade to those cameras. Dane said, thanks for the explanation, no worries. Delta Dave said, spent that much money. You mean like what people complain about what Canon does? Let me scroll down because I think we'll move on. Okay, let's go on. Let me just see, Photomix said, people buy the latest and greatest cameras, that they are way more computerized with much more sensitive parts and complain about sensor dust. Such a petty complaint for such a capable machine. You know what? And that's interesting, Photomix. I noticed Tony mentioned that the other day, talking about the Sony cameras having dust. Can I be completely honest with you? I do not have a dust problem with my cameras. Every shoot before I do before I go out, I use the rocket blower and I blow inside the lens, inside the camera like that with it facing down, and then stick the camera back in. I do that before every shoot. and I have never had a dust problem. I probably clean my camera once a year, get it professionally cleaned by Sony Pro Support. Apart from that, I don't do it. And because I use that rocket blower all the time, I never have a difference. Now, what Tony said particularly, I don't think is true, because I just don't have that problem. And you see me shooting video, Neil. I'll do that now, and there'll be a dust problem. You've seen all the videos that I post, and I've never ever had someone say, David, you've got sensor dust on your camera. I shoot photos all the time. I don't have to fix for dust. So I think that's a bit of a furphy. I really don't think that's true. Guy with camera said, David, picture profiles makes all the difference in practice. Give me picture profiles and I won't even need the A7S III. See, I'm lucky because I don't use picture profiles much at all. I mostly just use the standard profile. So for me, not having the picture profiles on the A9 does not matter to me at all. I have started using HLG though, just to sort of test it and things like that, but I'm still really happy with the standard profile. And if you're interested in that, go with the camera, check out some of the videos that I've posted and see, and that's all standard. The interesting thing is, every time I post a video, like one of the dancing videos that I do, people always ask me what picture profile I've used, and I've not used any, so it just shows. All right, so let's get moving. Let's start talking about the a9ii. What time are we on? 45. Because I've got to be out of here by 10 o'clock at the latest, so we've got 45 minutes, so we'll be right. Okay, so let me go here. Now, this is sort of interesting because Sony Alpha rumors are now saying that they've hinted that the a9ii will be coming before the Olympics. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Because originally, well, they're still saying that they believe an announcement is going to be around August. But is that now only going to be an announcement and then the camera is going to be released a few months later? Because it's saying here, down here, let's just look at this anyway. It says here that professional Swedish sports photographer, this guy, Daniel, however you pronounce his name, wrote this. Sony also informed a bit about their plans for professional sports photographers. One thing that I really like is that they will be present at more of the big sports events with larger equipment and service. This includes both the Euro 2020 and the Olympics in Tokyo. Even though I don't know about any specific details, I also received indirect information from a discussion between a Sony representative and one attendee about the fact that there will be a new Sony camera aimed at sports photographers on the market before the Olympics next year. It was not said in straight out word, but it was really clear between the words. I'm not sure how I like this sort of thing. I mean, this is very open to interpretation when you read this. But anyway, it says, I'm confident the new a9ii will be announced the second half of October. So what they're saying on Sony Alpha rumors is that it's going to be announced the middle of October, which is around that 24th, I believe. That's Photokina, isn't it? Is it? Or Photoplay? I can't remember. It's one of them. I think it's Photokina. So they're saying that it will be announced then. But if that's the case, if it's only announced then, but they're saying that the camera will be available before the next Olympics, well, the next Olympics is obviously, I think that's June, isn't it? June or July next year. So is this only going to be a potential announcement that it's going to come, and then we're going to have to wait a few months for this then to be released? It's interesting. There's two ways of looking at it. Due to the fact that Sony have just announced the A9 or released the new A9 firmware, I just can't see them releasing this camera that soon. I'm still picking that this camera will be released sometime next year. I don't think we're going to see it that soon. And it sort of hints at that when you look at that document, you know, and that's the interesting thing. But let me just come down here because I wanted to just talk about this because there was a comment. I was trying to think what it could need if it was going to be updated. Where was it? And I thought this guy sort of summed it up perfectly. Let me just see if I can find this comment. Where was it? Oh. I found some comments because he listed everything on there that we thought could be updated. Where was it? Now I can't find it. Oh, it was here actually. Let me just go back. It was actually here. So let me go down to here. I'll just show you these. These were some of the comments on Sony Alpha Rumors, and I thought this guy summed it up beautifully, because people were saying, why on earth would you need an updated A9? And I thought this was perfect. So this guy's Asmodeus or something, and I thought what he said was great. So people were sort of saying in the discussion, why would you need an A9 II, or how could they make it any better? And I sometimes do think that for the way I shoot. I certainly probably don't need much better. But let's look at what he's saying they could use for a better A9. Higher resolution sensor, and they are talking about 30 plus. So it's probably going to be 36 megapixels or something like that. Better dynamic range and faster read speed. Higher frames per second. I'm not sure if that's going to be much possible, but they may go to 24 or something like that. More powerful processor, obviously. Better high ISO. Higher resolution EVF. Well, we know for sure that you'll get the new 5.7 million dot EVF. So we know that that's going to happen. So you will get the higher resolution EVF in there as well. And I do believe that you probably will get higher megapixels, you know, like say a 36 megapixel, something like that. So I think that's probably almost a given. I'm not certain that we'll get higher frames per second, and you know, you probably will get a better processor. High resolution rear LCD. I just hope Sony do that, because that LCD now on the back of the camera really is terrible if you're looking at it compared. How old is that LCD? It's probably 5 years old. Sony really do need to update that LCD screen at the back. I mean, come on, they make amazing phones. They have the technology and they could do that now. But it should be a touch screen. It should be a much better LCD at the back. Better ergonomics. It probably will be the same body as the A7R4, so we probably know that for sure. Dual UHS 2 slots. I mean, I really hope that that's improved, because I noticed when I tried the A7R4, and you do press the buffer continuously, it does have problems writing off to the cards, and that's a problem. So that even the faster UHS 2 slots are not quick enough. It really should be using one of the new technology card slots that are in there, and that really, even if you only had one, it should definitely be using better technology. So I'm hoping that they're using one of the new technologies there, like Nikon and Canon have used, because dual UHS 2 slots aren't good enough. It does have to have a better buffer, and it hasn't mentioned that, but the A9 II would have to have a better buffer. I don't run out of the buffer at all, because it's the way that I shoot, but I know if you're dealing with sports you may, but it could do with a better buffer, so that's something else. Better video, 4K 60 maybe. I don't think that's going to happen, because I think they now have proven with the A7R4 that they want to make the cameras more specific. And I'm not even 100% sure that they're not protecting their new video line as well now. I'm a bit worried that Sony are going the way of Canon and starting to protect their video line. I hope that's not true, but I don't think we're going to see high-end video in the A9. I think they're going to stick this to stills, and it will be their performance camera for stills. Faster AF tracking, improved tracking, more advanced AI, bigger database for eye tracking of other animals, etc. Works in low light, and USB-C charging. So there's some really good points there that they're talking about with the camera. So the main things for me, I suppose, I'm still completely happy with my A9 as it is. I won't be upgrading to the A9 II immediately anyway. I'm not prepared to lose that money that I lost last time. I think within 12 months it had dropped $2,000. So I'm going to, because I still love the A9 so much, and particularly with the new firmware that's just been announced, I'm probably going to hold out for a few months at least 6 months after it's released, and then go over. And then hopefully by then it will have dropped down a little bit. And the performance of the A9 for me at the moment is incredible. I mean, the tracking is brilliant. The 20 frames per second is brilliant. The 1/32,000th of a shutter speed is brilliant. The no rolling shutter, no blackout. that camera, the A9, is still going to be an amazing camera in 3 years' time. It's amazing that it's been out the time it has, and there's still nothing that can touch it. The new releases don't even touch it. So I will not be upgrading for a while because I don't want to have that huge cost loss straight away, and my A9 is still brilliant. But, you know, yes, please give us USB-C charging. You know, give us the better body, give us the better sensor. That the 36 megapixel would be amazing. You know, they're things that could be great. So that's that. So let me just quickly open it up to chat before we talk about the A7S III. Let me just scroll back a bit. I'll start from around here, I think. I have 12 specks of dust on my sensor, very hard to see, so they can stay above 16 specks, I think, about cleaning. I couldn't believe that when Tony mentioned that about the dust, though. Like I said, I just don't have that issue. I mean, I'm not shooting f22 with everything that I do. Like, I'm nearly always sort of 5.6, f8 or lower, and I don't see dust at all. Cosman said, what do you think the technology is getting better year by year? 7 years ago, you bought the Canon 6D and you're good to go for a long time, at least 5 years. Can we keep up with the technology? Well, I think you can. Like I said, the A9, the a7 III is still going to be a good camera in 3 years' time. Remember, it's as good as the day that you bought it. They're brilliant cameras. It really just means you upgrade if you want better features, really. Or if your camera basically starts to play up. Guy with the camera said yes, yes, yes to the A9 with picture profiles. I don't think we're going to see it, unfortunately. Mark said Northrop stepped in it by saying the A7 IV is his favourite. Canon and Nikon must be rubbish. Did he say that? I didn't watch the whole thing because I was annoyed when I was seeing that thing about the dust. I thought, you've got to be kidding me. I get dust on my a7 III sensor. It's so frustrating when you see it. Do you use a rocket blower, though? Like I said, I never have a problem, but I use the rocket blower before every shoot. David, picture profiles makes all the difference in practice. Give me PP. Oh, yeah, I've read that before. We read these ones before. Sensor dust is no likely different in a digital SLRs or other cameras. Just don't pay attention to it until you see it in your photos. I haven't cleaned my sensors for ages. It's like a year already. Jeff said digital SLRs doesn't have as much dust because the sensor is covered. Yeah. But like I said, I don't have a dust problem. Let me know in the chat. Do you have dust problems all the time? Are you doing what I do and use the rocket blower? Where is it? It's in there, I think. So all I do before every shoot, and you've got to be careful when you do this though, but all I'll do is I have the camera facing upside down. I grab the rocket blower and then I will physically blow in here a few times. I also usually do the lens as well and then stick the lens back on. You've got to remember to keep this down because if you point this up, dust will go in. So you want to try and keep it down if you can. And then stick the lens back on. And I can promise you that doing that all the time, and if I'm outside, I'll take this with me and I'll give it a quick blow as well. So, but because I do that and I do it religiously before every shoot, dust is not a problem. Honestly, it is not a problem for me. I just don't get problems with dust. So, yeah. You've just got to make sure that you use one of those rocket blowers all the time. Don't get lazy. Do it continuously like I do, and you'll find that you won't have an issue. Photomix says, Northrop saying the Sony a7R is a favourite camera is no surprise to anyone and means nothing because he is a YouTube personality, not a real pro. Yeah. And he's not a real pro photographer. I don't think he does pro photography at all. It's all, YouTube stuff. I agree with what Photomix saying there. Delta Dave said, people want to give Sony a pass on crippling their camera while simultaneously chastising Canon for doing exactly the same thing. Studio 96 says Pony Northrop does clickbait. Hero says that's true. I mean, I can't believe what he said about not changing lenses and he gets dust on there. These things, they're weather sealed. Like, how can you possibly get dust into your sensor if you don't take your lens off? I don't understand that comment. Like, that was one of the most crazy things I've ever heard. What sort of stuff is he shooting in? You know, is he shooting in the Sahara Desert or something? Like, I just don't understand how he's getting dust in when he's not changing lenses. I shoot on the beaches all the time. I don't change lenses when I'm on the beaches. I've never had dust. I mean, I just don't get dust in my photos. I don't understand what he was saying. I think he was just trying to come up with another reason. What was it, 5 reasons or something for not liking the A7R4, and that was one of them? Come on. Where were we? Hero says, that's true, I hit it with a rocket blower every time I change a lens. Yep, and do you have that much dust showing? Probably not. Guy with the camera said, Jeff Burke, it's not true at all. You don't see it. 1DX has horrific dust. The DC... Well, I did a shoot recently with Ben. Ben, and you're going to laugh, right? I did a wedding not long ago with Ben. Ben often does second shooting for me. And when I did the wedding with Ben, Ben was using a D810. He had 2 horrible dust spots, and he was trying to clean it as we did, and he couldn't get rid of them in the end. I think it was it a wedding or dance? No, it was a wedding. Yeah, it was. It was a wedding that he had it on. And so he had a dust spot on his D810. I didn't have any dust spots at all on my Sony cameras. Now, if Ben, I don't think Ben's here, but if Ben is here, he'll admit it because he showed me. And he was trying desperately with a rocket blower to get it out, and he couldn't get rid of it. In the end, we had to retouch them off in the photos where it showed, and that was a D810. So he had a D810. He had 2 horrific dust spots sitting there. I was using my Sony cameras and had none. So come on, you've got to be fair when people are saying things like that. Robos said, Mark said, every now and then I do a camera sensor shake to demagnetize, even if no dust is visible, and have no dust issues. Mike said, what do you expect from Sony's a7S III 10-bit 4K 60? We'll talk about that next, Mike. Gerald says, I have no Sony dust sensor problem either, and Sony, and never after attaching the lens. Tony is off the wall on that. No way does dust after attaching the lens unless his lens rear element is dusty. Yeah, exactly. You can't get dust in. If your lens is sealed, how on earth are you going to get dust on your sensor? That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. It really was. Chris say, Tony mentioned dust getting in when he didn't switch lenses. He must not be cleaning the rear element of his lenses, so there's probably dust on the lens. Well, that must be it. Like I said, I grab the rear element and I'll also give that a quick blow with that rocket blower as well. I shoot everything at 1.8, so I never see dust anyways. True, you won't. I read somewhere you can damage it by blowing too hard with it. Nah, that's not true. I've done that for years and never ever had an issue. A rocket blower is not going to do anything. Mark said also another thing I do is to blow out the rear of my lenses, hence no dust. Yep. The other thing that I do though, I use these, and I'll show you. Not a condom. I use these glass cleaners because I have these. They've got alcohol on them, and I'll take out the lens. So I'll grab that out, and then I'll clean the inside of the camera every so often. That gets rid of any dirt and grime. The other thing that can happen as well with these is that all of the areas through here, and also your contacts in here, can get dirty too. So I'll use these lens cleaners and clean all around those sort of areas as well. The other area that I do this too is, I need to blow this. See, I'm paranoid now. Every time I take lenses off, I have to blow it. And it's just a religious thing that I do. Another thing that I do with, let me just get that in. Oops. Another thing that I tend to do as well, why am I having so much trouble getting that back on? Oh, there we go. Is I'll use those cleaners on these points too, because these can get dirty. And if ever you have misfiring flashes, particularly things like, you know, your remotes and stuff like that, it's probably because there's dirt or something has got on all of your contacts in here. So I will clean that also with that alcohol wipe as well. And then the flash will usually fire straight away. So they're great to carry around in your camera. Robust says, is that dog Pixel that Tony has creating all that dander? I'm not sure what that means. Triple says, yep, from Sony itself, when cleaning the image sensor with a blower, do not blow too hard. If you blow the sensor too hard, the inside of the product may be damaged. Yeah, well, look, they may say that, but I've done it for as long as I can remember, and I've never, ever had a problem. So, I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, if you hold it, it's not like it's blowing, you know, like a compressor. It's just, yeah, anyway. Gerald said, the a9ii announced before Xmas, available in January, February. Could be. Jim said, probably the stabilization gyros. Guy with the camera said, it's a cover your ass tactic because the dust can get lodged between the sensor and the cover in rare times. Roger C. from Lens Rentals talks about this one in his article, rare. And that's the thing, yeah, it probably is a very, very rare thing. It's like anything. Sony will give you a warning about it, but probably happens 1 out of 10,000 cameras or something. CF Express, yep, hopefully they could go that way for the a9ii. Zephon says, I've noticed more dust in my a7 III compared to the other cameras I've had, but like you said, a blower takes care of the dust for me. Yeah, I've not noticed any difference in any of my Sony cameras. All of them have not got a dust problem, as long as you do keep, you know, using that blower. Yes, please, I'd love it if you give me a thumbs up, guys. It just lets everyone know we're online, and also lets other people see it later on. So I would really appreciate a thumbs up if you can give me one. I've got 3 thumbs down. As usual, I love it. Oh, the haters crack me up. I was saying at the beginning of the show, Kerry, my wife, always laughs because yesterday when I put up, or the day before, when I put up the video about the Sony a9 firmware, I got thumbs down for that, and I thought, well, what can you dislike about that? It just cracks me up. And then some of the comments, one of the comments yesterday, I love this. It's just, I've got to do a video about the haters because I'm dying to do one. Because they just crack me up. Now this guy, Shine on Sights, I think his name is, I put a video up yesterday showing how you do it was showing how you use gels in the studio, and I just laugh because it cracks me up. I'm not going to read it because it'll probably stop this being monetized, but have a look at it. Let me see if I can see if you can see it. I don't know whether you're going to be able to read it. Let me see. Can you read that? I hope you can read it. I'm just hoping that it shows up. So, in case if you can't, I'll leave the swearing bit out. But it says, laugh out loud. You honestly think this was a proper way to use gels? Effing, you know, something effing, rookie results. I just put laugh out loud, show us your work so we can see how amazing you are. And he hasn't answered because I can guarantee he'll have no work. These people that do all this trolling and they're nasty people on the net. And I'm lucky, like the thing is, I'm lucky because I'm a lot older and I just laugh it off. But if you were a young photographer coming into the industry and you were trying to set up and do this sort of stuff, it could be devastating. You really could take it to heart. I just look at it and laugh. And it's comments like that. And I've saved all these. I saved them because one day I'm going to put up a video and I'm going to show these people up for what they are. Like, you know, these sitting, they live in their garage down below their mother's, living near the washing machine. and putting up comments about other photographers, and I'm going to do it one day because I read them and I just crack up. So, you know, like I said, every day now, every video I post, even before it goes up, it's been up for 2 seconds and I get a down like, and it just cracks me up. The haters are just hilarious, and the things that they say. Mike says, probably Tony has dust in his eyes. Zephon said, David, have you ever used Sony cameras in the rain? Yes, no problem at all. I've even used them almost under a waterfall in New Zealand, and it had no problem. That was the A9. They're a lot tougher than you give them credit for. Look, I do always dry them when I'm finished. I'll carry a towel or something like that and dry them. I don't leave the water on them, but I've never had water get in. Yes, the hot shoe collects dirt big time. Yep. So make sure you do clean that hot shoe. If you're having any issues with your Sony flashes and they're not firing or something like that, or misfiring, clean that hot shoe with a bit of alcohol. What else have we got? Where can I buy those condoms? I know. You know, the funny thing is, I'll tell you a hilarious story. One time I was doing a wedding, and I'm standing there and I'm trying to look at my camera, but I was surrounded by, there must have been 20, 30 people looking up at the bride. And I was trying to get something out of my pocket, and I had one of these in there, and I've grabbed it out of my pocket like this, and it fell on the floor. So it just fell on the floor like that. And everyone went, oh, and I'm going, no, it's not a condom, it's glass cleaners. And I was killing myself laughing because they do look so like condoms. Every time I get them out, I think, now you can get them in glass places that sell glasses. Prescription glasses often sell these. Here they sell them in Coles as well, but which is a supermarket. But if you go to glass places, prescription glass places, they usually have something like this. I mean, this is just one brand. Is it going to focus? This is just one brand that's there, but they're like a material inside. It's just a paper with alcohol on them. They're great. You can even clean your lenses and stuff like that because they're designed for cleaning glasses. So fantastic. And I always buy a few boxes of them, and I'll take for every shoot. I take say 5 or 6 of them. I use them to clean my glasses, but I also use them to clean everything else as well. Zoe at Moment says, am I crazy that I use lens clear to clean the sensor without applying any pressure? I'm not sure. I wouldn't be doing it though, but, well, it has got glass covering, but I wouldn't be doing it, but someone else may be able to tell me. I'm not game. There's one thing I'm not game to do, which is clean my own sensor. I just don't want to do it. I'll send it off to Sony Pro Support and get them to do it. We get 2 cleans a year. Per camera. So, you know, I do that. I don't clean my own lenses as well, but a few of you guys might. G'day, Langston. A change of lenses in such no ideal environments, I feel like dust is going to happen. Yeah, that's why I try not to change it in bad environments. If it's a bad environment, I'll hop in the car and change it in the car and then get out. Yeah, or, you know, I can even try and stick it under the jumper or something, but I'll usually take 2 cameras. If it's a bad environment like a beach, I will not change lenses. I try and take 2 cameras with the two lenses that I'm going to use and then not change lenses. You had 4 thumbs down a bit ago. I love it. Now we've just got 3, Jim. Andre says, my a7R4 is almost great. I love it, but when shooting video in 120p, it's not as good as my a7 III. Yep. The a7 III is still going to have better video, I think, than the a7R4. That's something that you just have to understand because of the way that sensor is designed. If you want the best video camera, like I said, I think the a9 is, but if you want picture profiles, you're probably best to go with the a7 III. What else have we got? That heckler is RL's new account. Who's RL? Always ask for receipts. Langston says, where is your work or get dragged? I love it. Torben says, guy with a camera. So does shooting wide open with most lenses if you're going to look at... they're talking to each other. Does Kerry have her own cripple hammer for when you buy new stuff? No, she doesn't. Her cripple hammer is just the look that I get. It's not good. The look that I get from her when she's not happy is not good. She did it the other day when I got my phone. Ooh, look. I'm going to take this weekend and do some filming up there. Oh, I also got the the Osmo Mobile 3 as well. So I've got that now paid for that. So I'm going to do some in Echuca this weekend. I'm going to do some footage with my with this. Just I want to see how good the video is. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up too, and I'll be having a look at the Osmo Mobile 3 as well. Ben said you can get them at chemists too. Ben, you're in here. I was talking about you before, just when we had the dirt on your lens, on your sensor that time. Remember the wedding where you had it on the sensor? Yeah, you can get them from chemists. That's good. Yeah, that's a good point. Jim Penn uses Osler's horror wedding stories. I know. Michelle said, your studio gel shoot pictures look great. I look forward to watching it later tonight. They're lovely, and the girls adore those shoots. It's one of their favourite shoots. And gels at the moment, they're very popular. It's a very popular look. So if you haven't checked that video out, check it out. It's the previous one before this one. Have a look at it. It's great fun. And you can do it with use Godox. You don't have to use Profoto like I do, as long as you can have one with gels and one with the bare flash on there to give a harsh shadow, because you want a harsh shadow, and have your other strobe with gels on it. It'll work brilliantly. Thanks for saying that, Michelle. Guy with the camera says, I clean my own sensors when I need to. It's quite easy. Yeah, I just don't have the guts to do it. Jim also cleans his own sensors as well. Kathy, g'day Kathy. Do you think there's a possibility of alcohol wipes damaging the lens coating on Gmart? No. Look, those, I've done it for years on all of my lenses and never ever had an issue. They're designed for lenses like this, which I pay, I mean, these were $600. And they have a coating on them, which, will stop glare from the computer screens, and it also does changes the color when you go outside and stuff like that. It's not going to damage it. If it's not damaging my glasses, it's not going to damage lenses either. No. It's up to you whether you want to try it. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I've always done it and I've never found a problem with it. But make sure you get good quality ones, but I mean, someone else might be able to chime in too, whether they do it like I do, but I do it all the time and I've never had an issue. Raymond said, alcohol, water or oil on lens or sensor is a no-no. I'm not sort of sure what alcohol they are. And see, yeah, some say that. And like I said, you may not want to do it, like Zoetz has said, but I've always done it and never had a problem, but that's me. Raymond says, it's not that I do it all the time. I mean, very rarely do my front lenses elements need cleaning. I mean, I don't touch them. So it's just that I've been at a point where it might be a wedding and someone's touched it accidentally, and, then they'll put a fingerprint or something on there, and then I'll use that to clean it off. But people may say you shouldn't do it, but I don't know. But I've done it, and yeah, I don't know. See, Jim, the alcohol on these doesn't leave a film because there's no film left at all. I don't know what it is about these, whether it's just the quality of these ones. Does it say what they are? I don't think it does. But these certainly don't leave a film on there at all. Not those ones anyway. Oh, just got a donation. Who was that from? Michelle, thank you so much. Wow, that's fantastic. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Michelle. It's a pleasure to help you guys. Guy with the camera said, just saying it's a technique issue. He's talking to something else. Ida Brown says, remember about 1.5 years ago, some account named RL. Oh, okay, now I remember who that was. Yeah, I could never do anything right. I did block them eventually, yeah. That's funny. I wondered who that was. Now I've remembered now. So it says alcohol, water, oil on a lens or sensor. I wouldn't put it on a sensor, that's for sure. New phone works so much nicer on gimbals than the XS did. Jitter, not a problem. Can't wait to try it. See, Jim said alcohol leaves a film. It might be these special ones because they're designed for glasses, though, Jim, that they don't leave film on there. I don't know. Mike says, what do you expect the A7 III will be announced? Oh, the new ones. Well, I think the A7 IV would be probably sometime next year, I believe. We don't know when yet. The A7 III I'm going to talk about next. I've got to keep moving, actually, because it's 10:49. I clean my sensor also, Altrix said. Amazon has Zeiss wipes for cleaning lenses. Oh, cool, James. Thanks for sharing that. Amazon, yeah, so that Ben said, yeah, Langston, try the pharmacy. Is the sensor covered with a piece of glass on it? Yes, it is. It's one of those things like working on your own car. Thumbs up, close to 100. Wow. Yeah, we're 76. Thanks so much, guys. Be sure you know what you are doing. I've cleaned mine, no issues. Gerald said, yes, there is glass over the sensor. Thank you so much for that donation, Michelle. Kathy says, thanks for the feedback, much appreciated. No worries, Kathy. Sam said, I use the Nikon wipes on my lenses all the time, never had an issue. Yeah, like I said, I've never had one either. Thanks, really, the alcohol cleaner film could be a strength. Yeah, like I said, these never leave film, so it might be, I wouldn't just buy alcohol. These are designed to clean glasses, so they don't leave film. Otherwise, you couldn't see through them. Langston says, I did my first hybrid shoot the other day. I think I like it, Rowan SC with the A7 III. Fantastic, Langston. Other people now are starting to move in Fusion. Alice said, A7 III, move on. All right, let's go, because I've only got a few 10 minutes anyway. All right, so what time are we? 1:20. I was only going to come on for an hour today. I can't help myself. Stop telling me off, Alish. G'day, Shaver. How are you? All right, let's talk this because people are starting to tell me off. All right, let's go to this. Sony a7S III. Now, this is interesting. The A7X successor, on Sony Alpha Rumors, they found this rumor somewhere talking about that the camera was going to have a vent. And it's saying here that the A7S successor records 4K 120p and has a cooling vent on it. Now, this is really interesting, and in some ways, it sort of doesn't surprise me, but I'll talk about a couple of other things in a minute. But it's saying this rumor is from a reliable source. He had a chance to see a testing prototype of the A7S II, or 3, or whatever, 2 successor, some months ago, and here comes the warning. He saw the prototype months ago, which means Sony might have changed some things in the meantime. But he said, the A7S II successor now records 4K 120p. It does not record 8K. The camera has a cooling vent on the back. And it says here, we still have no 100% info about the exact A7S III name, release date, but it's likely that the camera will now be announced after the a9ii launch in early 2020. So, I'm just laughing at Alesh. Saying didn't mean to be rude. What do you guys think about this? Well, there's a couple of things here that I think about. That if Sony are going to keep the same body size that they've got, they're going to have an issue. There's clearly a reason why they haven't. Look, there's 2 reasons. Let me give you 2 reasons. There's 2 reasons why Sony have not released the A7S III at this stage. One reason is they want to protect their FS line or their high-end video camera line. And so they're using like I said, the Casey Camera Conspiracy's cripple hammer, and they're just not releasing it because of that. And that's a problem. This is one advantage Nikon have, and this is why I think Nikon may be the real killer with future camera releases, because they're the only manufacturer, I mean Fuji have, but I'm talking about full frame camera. Nikon are the only camera manufacturer that does not have a high-end video line to protect. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Nikon come out with something incredible in the video specs soon. Their video cameras already, the Z6 and Z7 are outstanding in video already. That they really are brilliant in what they do. And they may be the first company to bring out something that has high-end video in the full frame. We've got Panasonic who will do it as well, but I'm talking about just the full frame sensor. I know Panasonic have a full frame, but I'm talking about something different here. I think the Panasonic still has to use cropping. So Nikon are the only one that don't have a high-end camera line to protect. So Sony may be holding this back due to the fact that they've just announced a high-end camera as well, using Venice and everything else. I'm just hoping they're not using the cripple hammer and saying, well, if we bring out an A7S III, no one will want to buy the higher-end cameras if these cameras do the same thing. So I'm hoping that that's not the case. So that could be number one, the reason why this hasn't come out. Number two could be that the technology just simply will not fit inside the current size body. Now, Sony have already announced, and we've seen this before where the Sony product managers have said that 4K 60 is easy to do. Well, if it's easy to do, why haven't they put it into their latest cameras? Like, why wasn't it put in the A7R4? So it must be heat. The thing that's stopping it must be heat. So it possibly does make sense that they're talking about having some kind of vent that's there to get rid of the heat and the cooling. But this really does cause a bit of a problem, because if there's a vent in there, I can guarantee there's going to be some noise. Now, I know there's vents when you're dealing with the FS7 and cameras like that, but those cameras are so big that the vents are so far away from where you'd have your microphone that you don't hear it. On a digital SLR camera, the vent would be that close to an onboard microphone or whatever you're going to do that you would probably hear the vent in the audio. So it's a bit of an issue, I think. Look, fine if you're dealing with off-camera audio, but if you've got a vent on there which has some sort of fan like what they're talking about here, I would be surprised if there's not some sort of noise, like a fan noise or a humming or something that's done in the camera. So this has a potential to be a bit of a problem, I think, and I'm not sure that I believe that this is the case due to the fact that the heat component it'd get the heat away, yes, but I don't know how this is going to fit in the camera body as it is. I can't see how this would fit inside a A7R4 body. If you've ever looked inside those cameras, they're already very highly compact inside. I don't know what they're going to take out to fit a vent in. So I'm not sure I believe this in its current body. The only way I think this could happen is if they make a body that's bigger. Now, if they make a body that's bigger, you probably don't need the vent anyway. Because Panasonic do it. There's other cameras out there that do it. The Fuji X-T3 can do 4K 60, and they do that without having these vents and fans and things like that in it. So I'm not sure if it's true. I mean, I'd love to know what you guys think, but I just think, and actually they're talking here about they're showing that with the Panasonic SH1. Yeah, so that has a cooling vent in it. Oh, there you go. So I didn't realise that it had a cooling vent on there. So, well, if you look at the SH1, I didn't realise that was what it was. If you look at the SH1, that body is much bigger. It's much bigger than what the Sony cameras are, and they can fit the vent in. I don't know how they're going to fit the vent into a Sony camera that's the size of a RX4. I don't think it'll fit in there. Not the RX4, the A7R4. I don't think it would fit in. So it's interesting, but I don't know. I haven't used the SH1. I haven't heard whether the noise from that is bad or what. So it's an interesting concept, but it's certainly something that Sony are obviously struggling with heat. It must be heat because the technology is already there to shoot 4K 60. No one has shot 4K 120 yet, I don't believe. So that's something that could be new. The problem for Sony is that they've said all along that they want to exceed expectations. Well, the longer that they leave it, the expectations get higher and higher, because now you've got the S1H that's come out that has amazing features. you know, and it's really interesting. So the longer they take to produce this camera, the more, or it's then becomes harder and harder for them to exceed the expectations of the users that they keep saying they're going to do. So I'm not sure, you know, I don't know what's going to happen in this, but it looks like they're saying, Sony Alpha rumors are saying that we're going to get the a9ii first, and then the a7S3 is going to come out after that. So if we're looking at a release of the A9 in, say, January or February, it may be announced in next month, and then, say, released early next year. Then who knows when the A7S3 is going to be announced? You know, is it going to be announced a couple of months after that? So we may be looking the middle of next year. It's starting to look a bit bleak if you're waiting on the video side of things on Sony, unfortunately. We're just on nearly 10, guys, so I've got to go in a few minutes. I've got an appointment at 10:15. So let's just quickly go to Q&A just to see what people are saying. Looks like a hairdryer. I love it. Langston says, I mean, if we look at the advancements in cooling tech and LED lighting, who knows? That's true, Langston. Before I was said, no bullshit. Steve said, we use Zeiss wipes packs 200 from Amazon for $9.49. Thanks, Steve. Guy with the camera says, I really hope the A7S3 hits out and out of the ballpark. Otherwise, I can't help myself with the SH1 as my video cam. I know, look, I seriously may end up doing that if Sony don't release something. The SH1 seems to be a really good camera, really good video camera. As long as you don't mind worse focus, that's the problem. That's why I'm still holding off. Zomo said, 4K 120, I'm sold. What else have we got? Mr. Bond says, if it has a vent, then it's not gonna be waterproof at all. And that's another good point as well. Let me just answer this. It's just my appointment. Hang on, guys. Sorry. Hello, David speaking.
Hello, David. It's Jane from my clinic.
Hi.
How you going? We're just letting you know that it's running quite behind.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Quite a few doctors with the school holidays. So if you want to come in, say half an hour later or...
Yep, no worries. Okay. Yep, fine.
All right, perfect. Thanks, David.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's okay. I've got another bit of time. My appointment's running late. What else have we got here? Guy with the camera said Panasonic and has a video line, and the SH1 does not hold back. I know they don't seem to, but Panasonic never have. It's other camera manufacturers that seem to have done that. Like Canon definitely have done that. Sony seem to be doing that, which is a bit of a worry, and I'm hoping that's not the case. But it does seem to be that that's the case. So let's just hope that they don't hold back. But yeah, I never thought about that. Like, how on earth can you weather seal this sort of system? And that is an interesting point. I'm not sure how that works. But I was under the impression that the SH1 did have weather sealing. So I'm not sure how that works at all. And that's a very good point. Langston says the Galactic Empire couldn't even figure out how to properly seal a vent. I love it. Looks like a hairdryer. Yeah, it does. Dave says it would be an engineering feat for sure, but I'm thinking more in the heatsink area. Carl says the cooling could be accomplished using a sealed heat exchanger. Thanks, Carl. Studio 96 says Nikon needs a better preamp. Yeah, their preamp's not good. They do. That's one thing where they do have to improve. Sony's preamp is amazing, actually. So if you're into the audio side of things, the Nikon is a bit noisy. So Nikon definitely need to improve their preamp. Thanks for that, Studio 96. I forgot about that, actually. Cripplehammer Robert said, Guy with the camera says, A7S3 will be crippled. The FX9 specs are great, not amazing. That's a 10,000 camera. Yeah, the FX9, look, if I was shooting video seriously and not doing fusion, I would buy the XX9 in a heartbeat. I think that's a very reasonable camera for what it gives. Venice Color Science is amazing. The autofocus on that camera is amazing. It's a brilliant camera, the FX9. So it says the vent may be just a large passive cooling, but if it has a fan, then that is going to suck bad. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they're talking about there. I don't think you can have a fan in there. Yeah, perhaps it is just passive cooling. I still don't know, though, if it's passive cooling, how it can get enough air coming through. It seems to be, when you look at it like that it's dragging the air in. If you look at this, I mean, you can see that it's dragging it through. That, to me, looks like a fan. I mean, I don't know whether I'm reading that wrong or not. I'm not sure. Carl said, if you're doing high-end video, it's not likely you'll be using internal or attached microphone anyway. True. Ice packs. I love it. Unless if you don't mind, I don't mind if they make the body bigger. Just make it sexy along with the menu. I don't mind. I seriously don't mind if they make a video camera bigger either. I mean, if Sony say, look, we've had to make this camera larger due to the fact of having this, wanting to give you 4K 120, people aren't going to complain about that. There's no problem with that at all. If that's what Sony have to do, they have to do it. And I think people would be accepting of that. Time for you to go. Great show as always. Langston says you've hit the limit. Yeah, well, they're running behind now, so I have got a bit more time. The only downfall of the SH1 is the focus. If you would have dual purchase that, is the focus. Yeah, I know. Look, the Panasonics, why on earth they don't put phase detection in there, I do not know. I really don't understand why they don't. But remember, for most videographers, they are using manual focus, so for them it's not an issue. When I recently was using those manual lenses, I actually found it pretty good, and I was quite surprised how easy it is to do. And I was very happy with the dancer that I did it, and it worked brilliantly. But I still wouldn't like to give up the focusing that Sony cameras give me. That's why I'm waiting to see what happens. It could be made weather sealed. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they could do it though, Carl. No choice but to move away from Sony for video. Well, that's certainly right at the moment, that's for sure, if you want high-end video anyway. Military equipment uses sealed heat exchangers in many applications. We weren't supposed to tell the civvies that, Carl. I love it. Capture Media says, meet you in Vegas selling my studios in LA as we speak. Got tired of the needles and poop on the street in front of my studios. Skip LA and just go to Florida and Vegas. Well, I'm coming to Capture Media. I'm coming to LA because I'm going to Vegas for WPPI. I'm going to spend a week in Vegas, in LA. Then we're going for a week in Vegas, and then we're going to have a few days in Disneyland and stuff like that. But then we're going to drive up to San Francisco and go to Yosemite and stuff like that. So hoping to meet up with as many of you as we can. So are you giving up studio completely, Capturing Media, are you? Carl says he's using a fan. Jim says, I think it's not a motorised fan, just an impeller driven by heat. Oh, okay. You can weather seal a vent in one direction of the grill. Has to point downwards rather than straight up or down. It's a low-speed whisper fan, barely audible. Chris said small cameras make sense for their entire end-level entry cameras, but I really wish Sony would stop shying away from bigger bodies in their flagships. Exactly, they could for their larger camera, for their higher-end cameras, give us bigger bodies. I agree with that. Capturing Media says it's not just downtown. This is affecting. I'm only one of 7 studios I know who are leaving as we are moving to Vegas. It's cheaper to fly people in. Wow, that's interesting. Sports28 said the SH1 is weather sealed. If you watch 3 Men and an Elephant interview with Sean from Panasonic, he talks about that in detail. Thanks so much. All right, guys, that's it. Like I said, obviously there won't be a show tomorrow because I've done that today, but I might pop in live and just do a quick one, show the location down there or something. Try my phone on the gimbal live, see how it looks. Apart from that, have a great weekend. Leave any questions down below. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And check out the last video that I just did with the gel shoot, because that shows how the whole shoot was done. And it's sort of like I'll show how my lighting was done, how the gels were put in and everything else. So please check that video out as well. All right, guys, thanks so much for everything, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.